Hello, everyone. Welcome to Adventures in Who, your local gibbin, gabbin, chittin' and chattin' Doctor Who podcast. I'm Martin.
I'm Tash.
And as you can tell if you're watching the video version, the Squishmallow is out, so you can probably tell how this is about to go.
uh,
um,
everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Everything is fine. So, of course, we're here to give our reviews for the Reality War, the finale for Season 2, Series 15, Episode 8.
Yep.
This, I think we all know, everyone who's listening to this, we certainly know, that this episode was a time that we've all lived through. And I've seen positive reactions, not ones I understand, but I've seen positive reactions to this. I've seen very negative reactions to this. Divisive, all of that stuff. So, for the sake of this podcast, we're going to try our very best for this to be cathartic and a laugh and try and keep our energy up, because I think it's going to be very easy for us to sink into a hole of what on God's earth are we doing? It's going to be very easy to slip into that. But yeah. But before we get into it, Tash, how are we doing? How's Tash doing? How do you find yourself this weekend?
Well, I don't know.
It's the shadow of Doctor Who has come over.
I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Hey,
okay. I'm still gonna be fidgeting a little bit today, as is the tism foretold, but I can move my neck a little bit more, and yeah.
On the plus side, there was a teaser for Stranger Things 5.
There was, and Squid Games 3.
And Squid Games 3.
And I finished Blueprints. Well, the first part of Blueprints.
Yeah.
Because it was infiltrating my dreams, and I had to stop having dreams of blueprints. I unironically had a dream of Doctor Who last night, and it was during Peter Capaldi's season. And we were watching it, and then Conrad was just there, and I was like, "Conrad's been here this entire time," and we were having a whole debate about it and, like, freaking out, and then I woke up to my alarm.
That was what he got
Because you know
watched.
what's been seeping into my dreams.
No, you're right. Ruby wished that he could be happy, and he was sent to the Peter Capaldi era, and that's when we were all happy last.
Oh, man.
I didn't really...
man.
I mean, I did go looking for some news to open us up, just because I thought there might be some kind of, like, some official statements or something being put out there, given the ending of the episode. Suspiciously little, like, from what I've been able to find as of recording this, there's just stuff from Shooty sort of echoing kind of what he said in the behind the scenes videos that you can see on YouTube and Unleashed, like how, like, about his departure, and echoed through Russell as well, but not really talking anything about the Billy Piper of it all. Nothing from Billy Piper as far as I've seen. We'll get to all of that when we get to it in the episode, but seemingly it's very bizarre that there's like very little, any kind of tease going on. Without beating around the bush, let us do this. Doctor Who, the Reality War. Battle rages across the skies as the unholy trinity unleashes their deadly ambition. The Doctor, Belinda, and Ruby have to risk everything in their quest to save one innocent life. That is the official synopsis for this episode. I'll just open up quickly with, I did go and see this in the cinema. I had the cinema experience.
You did.
Of this.
You had your popcorn.
I had my popcorn. And I will say my screening was, in terms of the people who were there, it was middle of the road. There wasn't it wasn't a full house or anything at my screening. But it was, like, I will say it was nice that the people were there. There was a splattering of different generations there. There were some older people there. There were people of our generation there. There were some kids there with their families, which was generally nice to see. It was nice to see that there was still, like, an interest from every generation in the show still. I've heard from other people who went to screenings, like in cities and stuff, that they had full houses. There were some places that had more than one screening going on because of the demand to see it, which is good to hear. That they're, like, bigger scale, bigger picture in terms of the health of the show.
People still want to see Doctor Who.
So that's nice to hear and see. However, I will say, when the credits rolled on the reality war, there was one guy in my screening who had a very visceral reaction to what he just
I was
saw.
gonna ask if anyone
there was a
Oh, poor man.
this guy gave no shits that there were kids in our screening room. That was like,
Oh god.
it ended
What did he
and
say?
I just heard a voice behind me blurt out, "Well, that's pissed me off." That has pissed me
Oh
right
my
off.
god, I love that.
Oh my god. I'm trying not to laugh
Us too, buddy.
so
Us
much.
too. Well, I
So
mean, piss isn't
much.
a bad word. Let's be real.
It was tamer than what he could have gone, that's for damn sure. And
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be like, "What the fuck?" That would have been me. I'm not allowed to be around children.
Oh god. And yeah,
Oh.
and as I was sort of leaving, I got like, he was going off. That guy was going off. The rant did flow from that gentleman. But in terms of the
Good for him,
actual,
though,
yeah.
honestly, a valid crash out. I think everyone who has a crash out about this episode is so valid. Have that crash out, have that mentee be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blame Russell.
Yeah, and boy did that
Mhm.
flow when I got on the internet afterwards and just flicked
I
around.
saw a little bit because me and Martin and I couldn't talk about this, and I
Mhm.
at first said I was just gonna send an emoji, and then I had to go on a side tangent. Not we didn't go too deep,
No.
but then I reeled it back in. I reeled it back in a little bit, but I just saw you on Twitter, and I was like,
Yes.
"Oh no,
I put out a
oh
couple
no,
of
Martin."
tweets on my personal
Yeah,
Twitter, and
yeah,
because I just had to get something out of my head because I
yeah.
thought
We both knew.
I was going to
We
explode
both knew.
otherwise.
Yeah, I had to go on a rant about it to some people who don't watch Doctor Who, and they were like, "You're being dramatic," and I was like, "I literally cannot explain to you how not dramatic I am being about the situation
Mhm.
for someone who was down to go with most weird ideas in Doctor Who, didn't even hate the Timeless Child.
Mhm.
Like, this was rough, and it was just hard to, like, explain to people that give 0 craps about Doctor Who.
Yeah. No,
And I
it's
was like,
hard.
"Alright, I'm buckling it back in until tomorrow," but I just had to go on one little rant to somebody
Yeah.
who is not my
It's
partner, because my partner will just rile me up more.
it's it's hard because I feel like to a lot of people in, let's say, the mainstream, but just within
Yeah,
people who aren't tuned into Doctor Who aren't fans of it, I think they still kind
yeah,
of see it as the plucky little sci-fi show. Like that's
yeah,
kind of the view of it. It's not like a big franchise. It's not like a Marvel thing. If Marvel cocked up royally, or Star Wars if they
yeah,
cocked up royally, like it's not on that level for everyone else, I feel like.
yeah,
So when
but
people,
yeah.
Doctor Who fans, complain about what's going on, it's like everyone's like, it's not that important. It's just the silly little blue box show, isn't it? Like, it wasn't
It's
that show.
our silly little blue box show, and we loved it.
um,
We love our silly little blue box
we
show.
do, we do, and that's why we have a podcast for it to
Yeah.
vent our problems out every so often. But in terms of the actual cinema, like
Yeah.
seeing it on the cinema, I will just quickly go over
Give us the deets.
like being able to see it in its full, I think like 8K resolution without like streaming bitrate issues or
Mhm.
etc etc. It visually it is stunning. Like you can see a world where Doctor Who can exist in cinemas in movie
Mhm.
form. Although I do have a problem with the fact that this episode was a lot of people standing on sets talking at each other, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But like the actual visual effects, really good. Like
Yeah.
like the one shot from, because I saw Wish World as well while we were doing it, the
Yeah.
shots of like the Bone Palace in particular
Yeah.
were very impressive on a big screen. Like the bit where she was walking through the courtyard and looks up at
Yeah.
the Bone Palace, that was like a really impactful shot when you're seeing it on that scale. Certainly more so than when you're watching at home or on your computer or whatever. And sounded really good, even though I did feel like a lot of Murray's music was just continuously bombastic for bombast's sake for a lot of the episode.
Bombastic.
Um,
Yeah.
Seeing Doctor Who on the cinema, which I've done previously, I saw Day of the Doctor in the cinema. I saw Peter Capaldi's first story in the cinema as well. And having all three of these now experiences, you can really tell
Mhm.
visually how far along the show has come.
Yeah.
Now seeing this one, However, I will say it suffers from the same thing that all movies and a lot of TV shows suffer from these days, in that everything looks a bit too clean. Like there's not enough
Yeah.
like grittiness to it, and everything looks
Yeah.
a little
Wear, tear, just
yeah,
normal life. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
sorry to bring up Andor again for the 5th week in a row, but um,
Ugh,
and
man.
Andor looks gritty and dirty, and not everything looks pristine 100% of the
Yeah.
time and lived in. That's the word, lived in.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes, yeah, I can see
And
that.
that's not just Doctor Who issue. That's like a lot of modern
Yeah.
productions suffer from that. But yeah, the cinema experience, plot notwithstanding, I
Hmm.
I was like, you know what? I wouldn't even be mad if Doctor Who just became a movie thing that they did every other year. Like, because it works really well on a cinema screen if you committed
Yeah.
to that format. But yeah, that was the cinema experience, both in terms of the audience and what the episode was like on a big screen. Over here, the BFI, which is the British Film Institute, they, especially when one of these collection sets are coming out,
Hmm.
they will air like a classic story in a cinema,
Hmm.
in their cinema in London, which I've unfortunately never got to go to because members get priority, and I'm not a member because
Oh
I
no.
don't live in London, so it's no point me being a member and paying every month for something I would barely get to
We'll go
make
one
use of.
day. Maybe when we're like 50 and can afford a membership and visit London enough.
But yeah, it would be cool to get to go to one of them, because normally when they do
Yeah.
it, they get a panel from the episode itself of people, either director or actors or whoever, to
Yeah.
do a Q&A afterwards and that whole thing. Next thing then, I guess, is to dig in to the story itself, the reality war. It's hard to know where to start with this, because I feel like this is going to be a very easy to go off on tangent situation talking about this episode.
I was talking to Martin before this. I'm sorry, everybody. I've been pretty quiet, all things considering the other episodes, and have withheld a lot of opinions for the sake of poor Martin, who's just like, no one wants to listen to you go on a rant for 3 hours, Tash.
That's
No one's gonna want to listen to us. And so I've been silenced, everybody.
that's not true at all. That's not. This is gaslighting at
I've
the
been
highest
told.
order. This is not
I
true
learned it
at
from
all.
RT Davies. Come on. No, really though, it's gonna be a longer one.
Yeah.
I like even withstanding some of the side tangents, I just
Hmm.
feel like there's so much to unpack here, and I it would be disingenuous of me to have this conversation
Hmm.
and not be able
Yeah.
to go on those.
The thing is, obviously, there's the big three situations
Mhm.
where the story is
Yeah.
concerned. It's how the Rani's dealt
Mhm.
with, how Omega's dealt with, and then obviously
Mhm.
the prolonged regeneration, which involves two big surprises within it. Those are like the big talking points, but I don't want those to overshadow some of the things that are just fundamentally flawed within the storytelling otherwise, because there's other things in here that
Mhm.
are just like, what is happening? Let's kick this off. The story opens, we're on the cliffhanger, the Doctor is hurtling towards the Underverse, and
Yes.
rather than giving us like the Doctor falling into the Underverse and having to confront Omega face to face and have an interesting reuniting of those characters, what do we get? No, we
Yep.
get a magic door.
Yes, yes. There were many magic items
And there's so many
and
magic items.
concepts in this episode.
So the Time Hotel comes back with Anita, which, I'm happy to see Anita. That Anita was the
For
standout
sure.
of that story.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but it did feel like the copyist of cop-outs, because fundamentally I feel like Russell is completely uninterested in telling Doctor Who
An
stories.
actual story?
Like
Yeah.
he's like so not interested in Doctor Who. He's rather tell his soap opera. I don't want to. I feel like I'm being hyperbolic saying soap opera and using Doctor Who as a vehicle to tell those stories,
Mhm.
rather than actually, like I say, coming up with an interesting scene between the Doctor and Omega, or an interesting development on the lore in any kind of meaningful way. So we end up in the Time Hotel with Anita, and seemingly the day resets, and Enter our first bit of convolution to this whole story. So not only does the Rani's plan revolve around everyone doubting to rip open the universe,
Yep.
also the day repeats itself. I was like, okay. I don't know. I'm lost a little bit. Like why were the doubts so important? Why are we looping days as well? It just seemed like an added
Complexity?
an added complexity that didn't really seem to need to be there, other than Russell needed all the characters to be reset again. You know, like it just felt like, well, the day has to reset because I can't lose all my characters, because then what do I do? Like that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
We get this whole bit with Anita in the Time Hotel, and turns out Anita on her off days has been rummaging through the Doctor's past. Showrunners, every single last one of you, showrunners of modern Doctor Who, can we stop with every single character who meets the Doctor falling in love with them? Can we stop this? Because it turns out Anita had some mad crush on the Doctor the whole time, and then there's a bit where where she sees him with Rogue and then gets heartbroken, and like, oh my god, just I don't think I really need to go into details to why I'm completely bored, done with every single person falling in love with the Doctor. But if we were doing this, at least, at the very least, I got to see gurning John Pertwee on on a bed in the cinema. At the very least.
Yeah, I did see that it's one of the things that you were happy about, that you tweeted about, and I was like, "Let's go." I'm happy that you've got that moment. I had a really happy moment in this episode too, and I'm just holding on to that.
Yeah. So it was interesting that the foreground Dalek that you see come across the screen was filmed for this episode to put in front of the scene. So technically, Ncuti did get a Dalek in his era. Not that he met that said Dalek, but he got a Dalek in there.
Let's go.
It's so... we'll talk about it when we get there, but it's so just sad.
Yep.
The state of affairs where it comes to looking back on Ncuti's time on the show. It really is. If nothing else, like I say, I got to see a little moment of Day of the Daleks on the big screen, and I'll take that to my grave. I'll take that moment. If we're just
all
gonna
of the flashbacks.
it's so
At least
bold.
one of them was something that helped.
It's so bold to put one of, you know, at least in my opinion, one of the best stories in this show's history amongst amongst this slop. Also, as we get this exposition where the Doctor is explaining what's going on to Anita, clearly no one told Ncuti how to pronounce Omega, because he pronounces it 4 or 5 different ways over the course of this over the course of the story. No one took him aside to say, no, it's Omega. I know normally people would say Omega, but the character is called Omega, and clearly no one told him. No one was like...
I mean, you didn't correct me. I've been saying Omega.
Well, I mean, that's different. That's different. There's a difference between, like, the main actor in the show who's playing a character who has history with this person. And
how is Arani pronouncing it? Is Arani pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, the Rani, everyone else other than Ncuti is pronouncing it Omega. It's a nitpick in the grand scheme of things, but it was just irksome. It was irksome, and it obviously took me back to Matt Smith pronouncing Metabolus to Metabolus, or whatever the fuck he was saying in that one
Matt
episode.
Smith alone.
Yeah, well, again, someone didn't tell him how to pronounce it.
You leave Matt Smith alone.
Someone didn't tell him how to pronounce the word, okay?
It's my baby boy.
It's not his fault, but someone should have told him how to pronounce it.
Baby boy.
But yeah, we end up back in Poppy's bedroom. We kind of get the solid point of that Poppy is a real baby. Created by the Wish, but has become reality through the memories of the Doctor and Belinda, which doesn't make sense, and would make more sense if it was Ruby, which is one of the glaring issues.
Ruby's there.
Yeah. It's never has it been more apparent that Ruby was meant to be the main companion in this storyline with this whole plot element, because obviously Ruby met Poppy previously. So the whole idea of Poppy being a daughter of the Doctor who has come from their memories, with Ruby having met Poppy in Space Babies, and etc. etc.
Honestly, that's not even the most problematic thing.
No,
Not even on the top 10 problematic things of this episode.
that really is kind of the summation of a lot of what's wrong with this, is just how convoluted it is and how blatant it is that a lot of this was rewritten at the 11th hour, and obviously we know a lot of reshoots happened, probably coming down to Shooty leaving unexpectedly. And as much as Shooty can say in the behind the scenes, it was always the plan to do. No, it wasn't. No, it was not. You cannot fool me. This was not the plan. This was nowhere the plan, okay? Especially since he was on Graham Norton that previous year and they cut it from the broadcast, but he said, yeah, we should be going back to film season 3 and around this date and time, and it's like, this wasn't the plan. And him saying like, oh, I'm getting too old for this, it's wearing me out. You're in the prime of your life. You're in the prime of your life. You're like the most physically fit person to ever play this role.
Well, and also, like, what do you mean you're getting too old to play the Doctor? Fucking Billy Piper. You know what?
Yeah.
You know what? We're not even gonna go there. Historically speaking,
yeah, most people are older than you.
You're very you're very young. You were a baby. You are said baby Doctor.
Don't get me wrong. Playing this role is probably exhausting. He's probably correct about that. Literally every actor who's played it has said as much, that it is a physically and mentally demanding role to play.
Yeah.
However, and he obviously filmed a lot of his stuff all together in one big chunk. There was a little bit of a gap, but like, yeah, I'm not buying it. Not for a second that this was the original plan.
I don't think so either.
Especially
the end
with
of the episode is very telling of that.
Yeah, and especially with the latter scenes.
Yeah.
Obviously being filmed this winter that's just gone, because you can see their fucking breath throughout the whole scene. The whole Time Hotel thing, the Doctor explaining to Anita everything that's going on, kind of setting all this up. That all takes place within the first 7 minutes of the episode. And then eventually we get to the point where the Doctor comes down the stairs and suddenly his clothes magically change, which, magic, everyone. Magic. I guess we're in Wish World, so sure, do whatever you want at this point, but whatever. How are you feeling 6-7 minutes in with all of this?
Well, I appreciate Anita.
Yeah.
Happy to see her. Don't know why they made her pregnant, really, unless like her child's gonna be special in the future.
I don't know if it's because the actor was pregnant. I don't know. I couldn't.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I have no idea, honestly.
That's fair enough. I didn't even think about that. There's so much other garbage going in my brain. That's fair enough. If she was pregnant, then of course you do you, boo. It was a way to get the Doctor to the point where the Doctor needed to be.
Yes.
We see Mrs. Flood say, I took Christmas off, and the Ronnie being mad at Mrs. Flood because they're supposed to follow her every single day, and she's like, so I took Christmas off. So like, I think it was whatever kind of way you need to write it in there. And it put the Doctor where the Doctor needed to be. Got Belinda, and they have a kid.
It was a whole opening sequence of, well, I need the Doctor to be here so we can do this. So, and Russell said as much in behind the scenes as that he had the cliffhanger of the Doctor falling into the Underverse there for a while, and then Stephen wrote the Joy to the World, the Time Hotel, and he said in his interview, was like, thank God for Stephen Moffat inventing the Time Hotel, where they have literal magic doors that can open, and I could use that to get him out of the predicament. Which is just so like ridiculous.
Stop.
It's so ridiculous mentality.
On magic buttons.
Yeah.
Stop it. Jesus Christ.
Like I said, it would have been so much more interesting had the Doctor just fallen into the Underverse and we got some weird trippy visual of what that looked like. Him having a confrontation with Omega that way, and then the Doctor doing something clever to get out. Like using the Rani's plan against her to get himself out.
No, man, they're too simple. We needed a whole lot of complicated science stuff for no reason.
Not even science stuff, magic
and we
stuff.
wouldn't even get the monologues. You would miss out on so many other people's monologues.
So many monologues. So
You
many.
would miss out on it. Like, there come on. How are you
Mm-hmm.
gonna know the history of the show if we don't tell you in a 5-minute monologue?
That's it's so bad. It's so badly done. Like, there's one moment in this episode which we'll get to, which I think was really strong. It was a really strong piece of visual storytelling. The rest of this story is so much telling, not showing. So, like, so much of it, and with egregiously shitty dialogue to do so. But yeah, we'll get to that. We will get to that.
Yep.
So yeah, essentially what happens with all of this, what it amounts to is that the Doctor uses the normal time flow from the future that is coming out from the
Yes.
time hotel to pour it into Wish World, so that will wake up Unit when he arrives in Unit in his old new drip, because it's not even a new drip, it's an old drip. And I get what they're going for
I
with
love
him.
the outfit.
I mean, I get, like,
Yeah.
him wearing that outfit is, it works for the moment
Yeah.
that they're going for there. I mean, obviously kilts are like hundreds of years old, so him saying the future, well, okay, whatever. But still,
No, but they're in London.
they're in London. They're not in Scotland. I will say I liked when Kate says, "Who the hell do you think you are?" and he says, "I'm the Doctor," and when all the mugs smash.
Smash.
The moment he says that was it. Like, again, that's good. That's a good visual storytelling moment.
Yep.
Like, the Doctor is back, and it's the ultimate smash to whatever the Rani's got planned. Like, that's a great little moment. We then get another casualty of this story appear, where Rose comes back, because Rose is someone that Conrad could never even think of existing, is how the Doctor puts it, basically. But apparently Russell couldn't think of her either, because she has fuck all to do.
She's just there and then she's gone.
Yeah.
She's literally just there and then she's gone. She's gone. Are you gonna tell me that Rose is gonna pop up there?
Oh, sorry.
That was my first fucking warning sign. She was there the whole time. She was just imaginary.
She gives Ruby an injection at one point. Oh, she does that.
Yeah.
I'll point that out.
Yeah,
but
yeah, and then she's gone.
otherwise,
But then she's gone.
yeah.
Literally. Literally, she's gone. When I saw Rose, I said, "Oh no." This is gonna be, let's just throw everyone in shooty season for big goodbye. It was my first immediate thought. Then I was like, you're gonna tell me that Rose is here, and Rose is not gonna talk about the other fucking Doctor that's just existing out in the world?
No mention of it.
Why would you even remind us again, yet again? Why would you even remind us yet again? You're gonna tell me that daughter wouldn't be marching into that motherfucking building right now, being like, "Where is my daughter?" No, all of it. Why do this to us? Why do this? Why not just show us a scene of them at the end, just happy, having tea? You know, Doctor pops in, takes a peek at them, sans David Tennant Doctor. We'll mention By Generation at least 5 times this episode, but we'll never talk about the OG.
What's this mean for the 14th Doctor? Nothing, I guess.
Just gone. I love Rose as the actress, so like.
Yeah, like Rose is a casualty of not having anything to do because there's too many people here. Too many people and not enough to do with any of them. I'll just go for it now, honestly, is that the Rani gets done dirty, Omega gets done dirty, Belle gets done dirty. Like, Belle is literally shoved in a box through the main plot of this story. Did I say Melanie? Mel also done dirty?
Oh my god, yeah, for real though. For real.
Well, yeah, then we get something that blew my fucking brain, and I was like, you know what? Maybe Conrad has a point. The fact that Unit has all their staff members chipped, what in the fuck is that about?
Dude,
what is that?
Just like, oh no. I should go reset. I thought maybe I was just gonna track them and then like send out a different type of wave, but no, you can literally do things to their bodies via said microchip. It's not a tracking mechanism.
Even just tracking. Like, what kind of authoritarian shit is Unit doing that it's having to track all of its team members while they're not even on duty? Like what
is so casual.
What is going on with
that?
that?
Like, done it on their phone.
Yeah.
And then like sent like a certain sound wave. I don't know, man. It's kind of wild.
I know they stipulate that it only has a 10-mile radius from the unit tower, but even so, like,
Yeah,
it's such a bizarre, like, it's a convenience. It's a way to wake everybody up really quickly.
convenient, mate. Yeah,
But
yeah,
the implications of it are so crazy to me that
yeah.
these are the good guys. Don't worry, they're just tracking where everyone is all of the time, and
It would be such a shame if this technology got in the wrong hands.
right, right, crazy. That's yeah, that was nuts. But yeah, from there, everyone gets woken up. Shirley does a
Mhm.
Back to the Future DeLorean thing with her wheelchair to get to Unit Tower extra speedy.
The fact that she I cracked up in that shot. She was like, "I'm gonna go save the world." Phew. Would you not test the buttons? Like, I just feel like there's no way she didn't accidentally push that button in Conrad's world. Like, it was
Right?
there, it existed.
Yeah, it
Like,
existed the whole time.
something could easily bump into it. You know what? Getting too far ahead of myself.
It was very comical, and it culminates in everyone being in Unit Tower, the whole gang, literally everyone we could think of and we could pay and was available to be here.
Yep.
And let's not,
Like I said, pack everybody in for a goodbye.
we won't even mention why on God's earth Mel decided to ride her scooter all the way up to the top of the fucking building, and then somehow her haircut got permed in her helmet. I like, what the fuck is going on there? Jesus.
Oh my god, the fucking "I'm a housewife" comment, though, I was just like, "You're not even a wife, though." That was
Yeah.
a very crucial point. Like,
I
that
thought
was such a dumb line. Like, that was such
upon
a dumb line, I
I
guess, in my
genuinely
opinion.
thought, and more for me, I thought Mel was gonna have something like more critical to do in the second part, because upon watching
Mm.
Wishworld again in conjunction with this, noticing how many broken mugs Mel has in her bin in
Yep,
Wishworld, I thought, oh,
yep.
that maybe that's like a hint of what's to come here. But no, she just gets microchipped and then she shows up and has some
Yeah.
really god awful dialogue. We meet again.
I didn't think of you once.
After this is ridiculous, actually. Now thinking about this, is
I'm
that
so sorry.
we just had a scene where the doctor explains
Yep,
everything to Anita, like what's
yes.
going on, where everything's at. The doctor then
Yep,
proceeds to re-explain everything again, but
yep.
to everyone in the unit building, and this is where, like,
Mhm.
what you were alluding to earlier, the Rani basically explaining her past with Mel. We get the lore dump about the Time Lords now being sterile. What the Rani's plan is that she's planning on using Omega's body as a genetic farm, effectively,
Yes.
to rebuild the Time Lords in a way where they will appreciate her and her work, and she can
Yes.
rebuild Gallifrey. But the
Yes.
dilemma is that if they stop the Wish World, Conrad's world, that
Mhm.
would delete Poppy from existence, which now Belinda and the Doctor are fully on board that this is their daughter, and they are like, that is not a trade that we want to make. It's frustrating because I feel like there is a dilemma there, because the Doctor's faced with a way to bring back his home
Time
planet and
Lords.
his species,
Yeah.
and like the life of this daughter who has now come into existence, who is a complete miracle and should not exist. Now, obviously, the Doctor was always going to side with Poppy on that,
Yep.
as well he should in
Yeah.
that kind of dilemma. But it's I just feel like it's not played up enough. Mainly because this whole plot line gets resolved within 30 minutes of this hour-long story. Like it gets over and done with just over
Yeah.
the 30-minute mark. I would have liked to have seen more of a drama and the Doctor in contemplation about weighing up this dilemma a little bit. Like there's like
Yeah.
an actual opportunity where, and Ron even states, like, Earth humans will be fine if I do this. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to let them live and go. Like, I'm not bothered. Like, if
I
they
just
can,
need this thing.
if they all survive,
Yeah.
that's absolutely fine by me. But I
Yeah.
just want your help doing this. So I would have
Mhm.
liked there to have been a little bit more of the Doctor, like, struggling with the dilemma a little bit, like
Mhm.
weighing up the value of an entire species versus one person, and all of that. But again, feels like Russell isn't interested in actual interesting sci-fi plot lines at all. he's not interested.
Yeah, yeah. All of this was rough for me.
Yeah.
All of this was rough for
Go off.
me.
Go
Yeah.
off on this whole scene. What you were feeling as all of this was
Well,
going down.
there's like this has been a consistent thing with Russell
Mm.
that he writes in lines for characters that I feel like just he's trying to make a good statement, but
Mm-hmm.
then he kind of just says really insulting things. Even when she got back, she flew the wheelchair back, she's back in unit.
Mm-hmm.
She says, "Oh, don't tug me. I feel like I haven't bathed in days." Okay, like fuck off. Right? Like I feel like that was rude. She was homeless. Bring attention to like, "Oh, well, she's dirty because she's homeless, so don't hug dirty homeless people," which I know isn't the message he was trying to say. But, like, there's really small insulting things there, and I can't really speak for
It's
like,
like
I'm sure there's people who have disabilities or who have been unhoused. Like, they probably have like, I can't speak for them or their opinions, right? So, like, I understand. There's probably other sides to that, but I just feel like there's small moments of dialogue where I'm like, I don't did you just talk to the people that you're implicating in this dialogue, I guess,
mm,
to see if you're handling it in a way that, like, actually represents them, and the conversation and this is gonna tie into the conversation that's happening between the Ronnie and the doctor. The conversation about fertility
mm-hmm.
was just, like, so distasteful,
Mm.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not someone who wants to get pregnant or has gone on that journey, but I do know friends,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, the way that the Ronnie just states it,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like is a harsh dialogue over an issue that is sensitive for a lot of people.
It's like an interesting sci-fi idea to reflect something in reality,
Mhm.
but it doesn't really go anywhere. Like there's no
Mm-mm.
deeper discussion about it or its implications, really. It's just there
Yeah.
to set up the plot of this is why she's doing this. Because I saw someone talking about how Russell has been doing politics this era. They put it a lot better than what I can, but it's how he is basically. I kind of alluded to it the other week or a couple weeks ago, where he's
Mhm.
just sort of saying stuff. He's not having a discussion or a dialogue about the stuff that he's saying. He's just
Mhm.
like this, moving on. Like
Mhm.
it's not anything there to educate or, like, say, open a discussion or a dialogue about those issues
Mhm.
or,
Yep.
or explore them in any kind of meaningful way. Knee
I
deep.
don't know, obviously, because I don't know him personally, but
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't feel like he's a bad person or he's trying to say these
Mm,
things to just dismiss them. I just think maybe like some more training around the topics or just more conversations with people implicated by the topics a little bit. I don't think he's a bad person necessarily. I don't think he believes in bad ideas. I just feel like he just throws in dialogue and doesn't really think about what he's throwing in or what
mm.
he's implicating in it. And then in this part, what
It's like
confused me is that like the doctor's DNA is the OG of Time Lords.
mm,
I still don't understand why I can't take his DNA. I guess maybe it's because they can't procreate, like it's written to their
mm,
DNA code that they can't procreate. So how would they
mm,
repopulate? The whole scene felt weird to me, and I think could have been handled a lot better. I don't like the monologues. I
mm. Like I say, it's
don't like if
a lot
don't
of
over
telling,
explain everything to us.
a lot of
Let us just
telling,
like
not showing. Yeah.
ex yeah, let us just experience it, and then the Mrs. Flood part, and then she's like, "Obviously, I bow down to the mistress." I'm like, "What is this bullshit?" I just don't I still don't understand.
I will
Ugh.
say, well, we haven't quite got there yet, but I will say
I'm sorry.
I was happy that that
Yeah.
Anita Dobson got away. I was
Yeah.
happy that and the Anita Dobson version gets to run off
Mhm.
and be out there somewhere. It's like Russell was like he is a socially conscious person because you've seen that in his
Mhm.
other work, like
Yeah.
years and years. It's a sin. Like he's explored these like hard topics in
Yeah.
other things, but with Doctor Who, it feels like he's too afraid to get into it with
Mhm.
where Doctor Who's concerned. Like he'll put it in there, but like I say,
Yeah.
it's like shin deep. It's like
Yeah.
we're not gonna linger on this too much. We're just gonna kind of bring it
Mhm.
up in a kind of light way to the point where it does kind of feel like, well, what's the point in even doing it?
Yeah.
And in the case of this episode, there's just too much going on. There's too much going on for anything to have any breathing room, because there's too many plot lines crisscrossing around each other in convoluted ways.
The fucking bone beast. We didn't need the bone beast. Literally, it was another monologue. I feel like there's a world in which you could have made this where the bone beasts weren't needed at all.
They're there for an
like,
action
there's just so many
sequence.
extra.
That's it.
So what though? Like, I feel like we've seen, at least in my opinion, the strongest Doctor Who episodes aren't about big action sequences or blow ups. Sometimes the most simplest set design and most simplest environment can create the most potent Doctor Who story. I just feel like it's always at this whole time, it's always been like big flashy things to distract you from a crippling plot. And like that was just another example for me. And I'm like, you're just wasting time explaining shit that we're not gonna care about. Like, give us the real meat and bones here. I don't need that 5-minute lecture on what the bone beasts are doing. You like just make it more simple and give us actual more depth to the story at play here. For the love of God, no more monologues or flashbacks to things that just happened within this fucking season or era. We just saw it. We literally just saw it. And poor Anita.
Yeah.
Poor Anita every single time. Like, she was just a door, like, she was a door stopper. Like, you gave her.
I was like,
few lines just in hospitality. That's all she got to say constantly. I'm like, oh my God, this poor lady.
I was sat there in the cinema like, can someone not get her like a chair or something to hold the door open? Just anything, literally anything.
Literally.
Like, Anita, done dirty.
Oh, so done dirty.
Yeah, like
so done dirty. I'm just
it's a whole
just in hospitality. I can't. Like, that was all she was able to repeat for the entirety of the rest of the episode, except one minor comment at the end. And I'm like, she's pregnant on top of it. She's 6 months pregnant. You're just gonna make her stand the entirety of the world collapsing to hold open a door?
just hold the door. Just keep it held open. Thank you, Anita. Yeah, we'll come back to you at some point, maybe. But I do want to talk a little bit about, like, the Time Lords are now sterile. So if I've got this right, it's kind of a retcon on what the Master did during Jodie Whittaker's time. Is what I'm like, because earlier on, I don't know if it was
has to be.
I think it was during the anniversary specials that the Doctor said that like, a genetic bomb like wiped out the Time Lords. The implication being that it killed them right there and then. It was like a bomb attuned to their genetics that wiped them out. Now we learn that it wasn't that. The Rani says it sterilized the species and they're not extinct yet. It's just taking longer until they all die off. And then there's this convoluted explanation as to how the Rani survived is that she took a genetic sidestep, whatever the fuck that means, which didn't even need really explaining. It's just like, well, if you're setting up that this genetic bomb was just like a sterilization process rather than a killing process, you could just say, well, she's alive because she's alive. Like, it didn't kill her. It just meant she couldn't procreate. Yeah, it's just, like I said, just another bit of convoluted information to try and explain why the Rani can be here when it's not really strictly necessary to do so. I was more interested in knowing how the Rani survived the Time War, honestly. Like, how is she even here, like, amongst all of that?
Yeah, and also, like, was the genetic sidestep, was that his attempt to explain the bigeneration?
No idea. Because that, again, that implies that did Mrs. Flood bigenerate from an older version of the Rani in order to survive?
Yeah. You know what? Like,
here's
my thing. If you don't want to explain bigeneration to us, stop mentioning it every fucking episode, dude. I don't understand. You keep bringing it up.
He keeps bringing it up and adding a new piece of information that doesn't seem to go anywhere.
No.
Like, had you just have left it as what it was to try and do something different in the anniversary specials and as an excuse to, you know, to get a multi-Doctor story in a new way for the anniversary, fine. Just let it happen. It's there, and we can laugh about the fact that apparently the 14th Doctor is in Donna's back garden having a barbecue and not doing anything. We can just laugh about that. Fine, whatever. But like you say, he keeps bringing it up.
Yep.
he keeps bringing up.
Yep.
Like, stop.
Doubling down on it, but giving us no.
If you're not going to do anything with it, like that's anything of actual interest, stop.
Yeah.
And that,
Mhm.
I mean, I guess that comes to what happens at the very end, but we'll get there. Anyway,
Mhm.
once all that is gone and done out the way, the Rani launches an attack on Unit HQ with the Bone Beasts. And I would
Mhm.
say, like, the Bone Beasts are creatures that live in the Underverse, and as she's been tearing away at the fabric of reality, they've kind of bled into the Wish world. Yeah, she uses them to attack. So we've got just a big flashy attack sequence, which I do not understand why the unit building is a pivoting turret. Why not just have the turrets on all sides of the building? Why
Like,
design this building to turn and actively cause damage to the building while it turns? Like,
oh
what?
god.
Who designed that?
Same.
Fire them. Whoever designed that, they
Yeah.
unit, you need a new engineer who doesn't do that to your building. Like,
I
what?
genuinely had the same. I was just like, "Why not?" And on top of it, we see, like, the ramp part. I don't know, like,
Goes
the
down.
helicopter
Yeah.
landing pad goes up and down. Why not just make that motherfucker rotate?
Mm-hmm.
Not the entire top of the building. Yeah, I had the same thing, and I was like, "So much money is being wasted on creating this right now."
I mean, again, I will say, seeing it on the cinema especially, it was very spectacle, and it landed in a
Mhm.
cinema screen. But I even sat there watching it on a cinema screen. I was like,
Mhm.
why does this building rotate? Just put turrets on all sides of the building. If it's meant to be
Mhm.
like, I thought like, oh, it's an interesting thing to show. Oh, this is why they put a tower in the middle of London, is so that London has a defense against like alien invasions. Like we have a
Yep.
building with high tech alien technology that can fight off against
Mhm.
potential alien invasion. But the fact that it swivels, I mean, I guess it's a nitpick in the grand scheme of things, but it was so, so ridiculous to me. Yeah, and I was so like nervous when I saw that steering wheel pop up at the front of Unit
The fact
HQ.
that that's what was the
I thought they
controlling
were going to
factor,
take
though,
off.
on top of it, I was just like,
I thought the building was
anything
going to
else
take off and
would have
fly
made
away.
more sense to me,
Yeah, it would have
honestly.
done. It would have if it turned into like a
It would have been
mini
like an
Valorant.
escape pod situation, you know what I mean?
That would have made more sense, other than a
Mhm.
pivoting turret. But amongst all
Yeah.
this,
No, I agree.
the Doctor
Mhm.
gets Susan Twist to construct a zero room, which
Mhm.
is a throwback to the old show as well. In Castrovalva, the Doctor uses a zero room to help with his regeneration because it's all going a bit wibbly wobbly, and he needs somewhere that exists outside of time and space to calm his mind.
Mm.
And
Yes.
they bring it back here as a way to try and save Poppy from the Wish world deleting
Yes.
itself, that she would exist outside of time and space while the Wish
Mhm.
collapses in on itself and goes back to normal. So hopefully
Yeah.
she still exists when they open the door back up. And yeah, that's where Belinda gets shoved during the whole
But
climactic moments of all of
the
this.
funny moment about this is, like, he's so willing to just leave Poppy in there,
Mm-hmm.
a literal child who would be stuck there if anything went wrong for eternity.
Mm-hmm. Just existing.
But
It.
not Belinda. But then, like, but then with Belinda, he's like, "I don't know if you wanna do this." And
Yeah.
Belinda's like, "I'm not gonna leave her alone." But it's just so funny, like, you're totally okay leaving Poppy in there.
I
Imagine a child just living there for forever if everything got blown up.
Yeah, I guess it's
But
like
yeah.
it's the last ditch effort. This is all I can do in a hurry. This is all I can do. But
No, it's not
it's
my issue is not with the box, it's just funny how the doctor cared about Belinda more than Poppy seemingly in this part when literally everything we do for the rest of the episode is about
yes,
Poppy.
yes, it's all about saving Poppy's life. This is what
Yeah,
is driving all of this.
yeah,
So yeah, Belinda done dirty. It's a real shame. It becomes glaringly
yeah,
obvious that Ruby was meant to be the companion, the main companion still at this point. Like
yeah.
this was the original intent. But yeah, Ruby gets strapped up with the Indigo device, a fancy teleport, which I don't
Mhm.
know if that's meant to be an upgraded version of the thing that Martha uses at the end of season 4, like the weird teleport
Yeah,
pack that she has in that.
maybe. I
Yeah,
honestly couldn't even think too much into the technicalities of all of this episode because I would lose my mind.
but then call me a psychic because I called it. That sky scooter, it comes back, baby, and we we get the sky chase. That I was
Yep,
like, there's no way we don't have some sort of sequence with
with
someone
the
flying
scooter.
around on that fucking sky scooter, and that we did.
Yeah.
I was a little confused as to why the Doctor takes off on the sky scooter and rather than going straight up to the Bone Palace, for some reason teleports all the way back down to the Thames, only to fly all the way back up to where he just came from. that was a little bit weird, but
Yeah, you got to
again,
get that dramatic water scene, you know?
you got to get that
See the
flight.
speed on the water. I honestly was trying to remember if there's ever been, like, a sort of, like, a scooter flying situation before, and I know in Jodie's I vaguely remember something, but I think it was, like, a helipad versus a,
I mean, there's the
like
opening sequence in Flux when Yaz and the Doctor are
yeah.
like flying around in that
Yeah, I just
in
couldn't
that whole
remember what that
segment.
device was.
But no, again, sequence looked great, especially on cinema with him flying around, and it's a fun like, hey, let's have the 15th Doctor do something cool and action
Mhm,
hero-y and just have a little fun fly around like the Green Goblin.
mhm. Honestly, though, good for him.
And then in true Doctor fashion, rather than landing
Yeah.
like a normal person, crashes through the window, um,
Mhm,
trying to disrupt the beam that is there to wake up Omega. And when this happens, it brings down the threshold around the Bone Palace, so Ruby can then successfully beam into Conrad's room, who's somehow waiting for her, like exactly pointing a
yeah.
gun where she teleports in. Like
He
you're
saw in
you're
his
gonna.
wish world, he knew exactly what the
I
plan
guess that
was.
is the way. That is the way
But
to.
seemingly never tells the Ronnie the plan if he knows the plan.
But he doesn't really even say that that's how he knows. He's just like, as if I wouldn't have known that you would try to do this. It doesn't explain that. I guess that's the subtext, I guess, that he can see everything that's going on in the
Yeah,
Wish world, so that's how he would know.
but he wouldn't warn the Ronnie? Question mark?
That's the plot hole in that. It's like,
Yeah,
you're not going to warn them that the Doctor is flying around on a scooter about to crash in and whatever.
yeah.
Whatever.
I do appreciate how Rose went from "Can I punch him?" to seemingly being the most gentlest person in this confrontation.
Oh, Ruby?
Yeah. When
Ruby?
Ruby first goes, "Can I ask? Can I punch him?" and Kate says, "Yeah," and now
Yeah,
yeah.
I did like that moment. I mean, I'm going to say this now.
Ruby's
Amongst
great.
Ruby is great in this.
Yeah.
She doesn't have enough to do, but like truly,
Just this.
Millie Gibson brings it as much
Yeah.
as she possibly can in this story, and once again is arguably for me the standout in this whole thing. Like she's destined for great things, and I hope she comes back. Honestly, I really, because I feel like Ruby's character has actually kind of at least grown a bit. Like she's gone from this wide-eyed, enamored with the fantasy of all of this, into someone who is not fully broken by the experience, but she's become a bit more mindful and
Mhm.
of the whole thing, and like it's a little bit more grown up. It feels like the character has grown up a bit.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah, her
aged,
time with
and
the doctor has
hmm,
helped her grow
so
and see complex. I mean, to be fair, at one point, she literally aged to the totality
yes,
of her life
yes.
and went back, you know,
So yeah, I
and
would be
somehow remembers that.
I would be really happy to see more of her, especially since it seems like
Yeah.
we were kind of shortchanged what her story was supposed to be with how
Yeah.
all of this has panned out. But I do know that the whole point of these 2 seasons with Disney was to tell the Ruby story. That's what Russell
Mhm.
says. Like that was the intention. So I don't know if we will get to see her again. But then we get to the two main villains of this whole story
Mm.
getting. Oh, actually, I should throw back a little bit within that scene where we have the Rani and the Doctor explaining everything, explaining each other to everyone in the
Yeah.
room. Mel say, "Oh my god, I don't like the confrontation between Mel and the Rani is
I didn't think
so
of you
shit."
once. You
Yeah,
thought of me every night.
it's so badly written. It's so badly written. But then within that
Yeah.
scene, the Doctor explains who Omega is, and somehow manages to get the lore so wrong. So incorrect. Like Russell, I know you've seen the Three Doctors. I know you've seen Arc of Infinity. I know that you know who this character is. So
Mm,
why are we doing this? Why are we
mhm.
actively changing the entire backstory? I mean, I guess it's literally just so it can fit within the narrative that he's trying to tell. Again, because he's not interested in telling Doctor Who stories. Um,
But the narrative that you're trying to tell didn't even need to include
no, not really.
Oh my god. Like,
Not really.
truly.
No.
Like, it was just so unnecessary
Imagine how much
in every
more
which way.
menacing and threatening this whole thing would have been if the Rani's whole plan was to have the Doctor have a child to then use that child for genetic
100%.
experiments. Like, how much more threatening and menacing that whole plot would be.
Yeah.
But no, if we're going to bring
And
back...
it's something that Ronnie would 100% do
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
well.
100%.
100% do.
The Doctor goes on a rant about how Omega was purposefully imprisoned and chained because he was insane. Not the story of Omega. Do not let this program lie to you, because that is not the story of Omega whatsoever. The story of Omega is much more tragic, and an element of empathy to go along with his character, because he was presumed dead and lost, and in reality he was trapped in another place where he had to will his own existence into being in order to survive, and he went mad. He thought he was forgotten about and abandoned, and there's, yeah, like I say, there's an element of like sympathy and sadness and tragedy to his story. The Doctor is a big fan of Omega. That's another crucial thing that gets lost in this. Like, the Doctor like looks up to Omega and is a hero of his, and that just gets deleted. that just gets completely yeeted from the whole point of all of this. Like, oh my god, that was just... I know this is only going to matter to people who care about the old show and how its legacy is then brought into the new show and whatever, but it was, as one of those old fans, I was like, what in the fuck are we doing? Again, this is what I mean by he doesn't seem interested in telling Doctor Who stories, because he's not interested in dealing with Omega in an interesting way.
Yeah.
And
but I like, it's just all of this. You chose to write this in, though. Like, this episode could have done without Omega, right? Like,
yeah, it did. Omega did not need to be in this.
You didn't even need it. No.
No.
For all of 5 motherfucking seconds. Yeah.
And it's so... It is...
And an insanely new design.
Yeah, a new design, which I wasn't a fan of either. But it's so like beat for beat the same thing with Sutek. It's literally the same plot line. Like, the villain was trapped in a place that elevated them to Titan godhood. Literally the same plot line, beat for beat, but just done in the space of 5 minutes rather than a whole finale.
Yep.
I'm struggling to think of anything other than like offensively bad use of that character. Honestly, like,
it's bad use of every fucking lore drop, in my opinion.
And yeah, the Doctor then proceeds to shoot Omega in the face.
Yep.
That's
Actually, hold on. No, here's my thing. Ronnie chomped up in a second.
Yes.
Mrs. Flood version of the Ronnie out of here. We never even got to see like the dynamic breakdown. We get to see Mrs. Flood yet again being treated as dismissive with the Ronnie's fucking monologue. Like, boop, gone. You never get to see, like, I why even write that in? I don't know. Ronnie, the other Ronnie, chopped up. Mrs. Flood goes away. Good for her. Good for her. She's not a servant anymore, I suppose. Didn't Russell redesign the sonic screwdriver to not look like a gun?
Yes, that was true.
Not implicate. Yes, yes. Is there not a massive weapon-like gun in play here?
Oh, it is just straight up a gun. Like,
I just... Why? Like,
I'll tell you why. Tash, I'll tell you why. Because
it's a magic button.
we have to get out of this somehow, and I can't be bothered to write anything interesting, so I'm gonna have him shoot him in the face. Yeah, it feels like the whole, like, the Ronnie situation, having 2 Ronnies and then having them one of them just killed off. Seems like you're the best way to test this, honestly. Is that the whole thing was just there to lead up to the gag of Mrs. Flood saying, "So much for the 2 Ronnies, and it's a good night from me." Does that mean anything to you? Does that does that line mean anything to you? And this isn't even in terms of Doctor Who, and it's okay to say no.
Is it the good night for me part that's supposed to mean something?
Kind of, yes, but kind of the whole thing. Like, so it's a joke, and it feels like the whole Ronnie dynamic was purely in place so he could tell this joke. And it's a reference to a sketch comedy duo in the UK who were active in the 70s called the 2 Ronnies, and their sign off at the end of all of their sketch shows was, "And it's a good night from me, and it's a good night from him." That was how they signed off on all of their sketch shows. So, in essence, it's a good joke. It feels like the whole thing was just leading towards that joke, and we didn't really do anything interesting, and it wasn't even Mrs. Flood who got one over on the Rani. It was just Omega giving chomp chomps. Like, so it's so just like
Yeah.
we just need to wrap this up real quick, everyone. So even though we've got an hour to spend on all of this, over an hour.
Literally, there's so many monologues he could have cut out. So many monologues. There could have been a much more discussion with the Doctor
I
and the Time Lord that he looked up to at
mhm.
some point. Like, there's just
I wonder if the extra runtime came about because of Shooty's decision to leave. Like originally, this story was going to be maybe 50 minutes long,
mm,
and that's why like it feels like it comes to its conclusion very quickly.
yeah.
And then it was going to be like a setup because we know that there was still shots of Belinda and the Doctor at a party from a scene that was cut from the episode. That was going to be, I believe, what I've heard is that originally the ending for this episode was going to be Belinda, Doctor, probably Ruby, and some of the unit team. They were going to be at a party celebrating May Day, like the day they finally arrived, and then
Yeah.
the camera was going to pan and reveal Susan, granddaughter Susan,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
looking over them, and that was apparently what the original ending was going to be.
But, like,
Um,
why can't we still not have Susan
oh God, we'll get to
after it
that.
being teased?
We'll,
Like, you could still put that in. You could
I,
still put that in. I don't know. All of it just seemed like bullshit. Don't you didn't need to include this character and bring it back from the lore just to shit on it
mm,
and then kill like push it back with a big gun. The Ronnie part made no sense to me.
mm-hmm,
No explanation on the how bi-generation existed for them as well, or how they
mm-hmm,
knew bi-generation was a thing. All of it post this as well kept falling apart more
mm-hmm.
and more and more,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
this whole plot just needed cutting down, streamlining. Just have Rani be the bad guy, like
Mhm,
the bad villain for this story, and like we
mhm.
said, it would have been much more threatening and menacing that the whole experiment was to see if she could get the Doctor to have a daughter so that she could then use for her experiments.
I feel like playing into Conrad's mommy issues was really weird,
Yeah, it's
for
because
then it to be Ruby talking about his dad,
it's again, it's
and
like
his dad not being around.
it's just extremely shallow. Like
Yeah, and you're
again,
playing into it, like, you definitely are playing into it,
like
playing into, like, seeking approval from a mother type figure with Ronnie
yeah, where it comes to
and Conrad.
because since we're talking about all our
Sorry.
villains conclusions here, like I
Yeah.
say, we get Ghostbuster-esque shot to the face with
Mhm.
Omega,
Yep.
with nothing really interesting going on there. Rani gets eaten, the other one zaps away somewhere, which I'm happy about. I'm happy that she gets to keep
Mhm.
existing somewhere in some form.
For sure, it's tragic to
Um,
bring the Ronnie back for this, for it to be meaningless, right? Like,
yes, for sure, for
that
sure.
would be absolutely tragic.
And then Comrade, again, it's that thing of like, there's some interesting things happening here, but we're not really expanding on them in any given way properly.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people had an issue with Conrad getting a happy ending. I don't so much have an issue with Conrad having a happy ending. It's just how we arrive there and the fact that we don't explore it in any deeper way.
Yeah.
Like, I like the fact that Ruby ultimately decides to do something kind,
Yeah.
and to try and make him a better person. Because that is
Yeah,
the
which is what could we look for in companions,
yes,
right? Like, because someone's gotta hold the Doctor accountable too, so you want a
yeah,
companion that's gonna
live up
wanna
to those
look for the
standards, and
yeah, and look for the best situation for everybody.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like again, the story suffers from having too many villains, too much going on, that we don't actually get any more depth than the face value of Ruby wants to do something kind to resolve this, rather than giving into the hatred or the anger or
Yeah.
anything along those lines. And where
Yeah.
Conrad's concerned, it was like, I see more so what you're doing with Conrad here, but at the same time, it's like we're not really doing enough. Yeah, another casualty of the story being too convoluted and full of
Yeah, you're trying to
characters.
touch into nature versus nurture
Yes,
here a little
exactly.
bit, but not actually fully diving into it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we then also discovered that the Bone Palace was generated from the Doctor's TARDIS, and
Mhm.
I can believe that the Rani would
We
know
get
how to
another
do
cheeky
that.
little flashback I got
Yeah,
another cheeky flashback to the last episode
yeah.
in case you forgot.
In case you forgot what happened, literally last episode.
Yeah,
Don't you
another
wonder
little
where your
flashback.
TARDIS is?
Yep.
And again, it doesn't really make the Doctor go, I wonder if the TARDIS is here. He just kind of remembers it and then runs and just hopes for the best, seemingly.
Yep.
He doesn't seem to really put together that, oh, maybe this is the TARDIS where I am that has
Mhm.
generated all of this. But yeah, I can believe that the Rani would find a way to use the TARDIS's abilities to generate this place. So
Yeah.
I don't really have a problem with that. I wish that there was more of a scene to show that. As we wrap all of these things up, we open up the Zero Room. Poppy's still there with Belinda, and we also take baby god Desi, who is now after the Doctor has got rid of wishes in the world,
Mhm.
drops them off with Ruby's foster parents, and now Ruby has a brother technically. Like she's no
A
longer
little Joe Sunday.
no longer alone in the
Mhm.
world. She has a
Mhm.
she has a brother to help raise and whatever, which is we'll get into this because there's a whole thing, but we kind of
We're
have
just
to.
kidnapping children left, right, and center in Doctor Who.
But no, this. Oh my god. Well, yeah. I'm just trying to choose the appropriate moment to get
Yeah.
into the mess of all of this. But and then also from there, we see the Doctor, Belinda, and Ruby on the TARDIS with Poppy, and this was,
Mhm.
I think, arguably the best moment in the episode in terms of what the plot of this episode is about and
Yeah.
how it communicates it, because it is genuinely the best bit of visual storytelling that the episode does, where you see them passing the coat between them and it slowly is getting smaller and smaller and just turning into a bit of a fabric until they've
Yeah.
forgotten who Poppy is, and but Ruby can still hold on to it. And I think the explanation as to why Ruby can still retain all these memories is purely
Mhm.
and simply the whole thing with 73 yards. That seems to be the
Yeah.
explanation. Yeah, it's caused something in her because she lived through an alternate timeline which then got reset. She's able
Mhm.
to retain memories, I guess. And it really actually took Russell on the behind the scenes to actually state that that was the case for me to be like, oh, okay, so that is what actually is happening. There's nothing deeper to this. It is the fact that she went through that, and that is how she's able
Yeah.
to retain all of this. But no, I do think that whole scene was kind of like beautifully tragic in how it unfolded, and then Poppy's just gone, and then the crib is gone,
Mhm.
and um,
Yeah. Again, Millie doing a phenomenal
yeah,
job, just, like,
exactly.
watching this all happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. This whole ending wrap up is really resting on Millie selling it, and she does a great job.
Yes.
Again, Belinda getting kind of shorthanded, where she's like the lead companion for this season, and yet she's not the one who gets to have the revelation. And ultimately, it would have made more sense again if Poppy was somehow more linked in with Ruby rather than Belinda. Like Belinda is so not the character to be having a baby. Just all of it. Just all of it. It would have made so much more sense. Anyway,
Yeah.
we then get to another unit scene, yet another scene with people standing in a room talking at each other. Ruby is trying to convince everyone about, but we're not all back. We're not all here. Poppy is still gone. The reason
Yeah.
we were doing this, the reason we did everything we did just now, isn't here.
He says I started to fall apart
Mm-hmm.
right after the blanket folding scene ended,
Right.
if I'm gonna be honest. Millie is doing a great job trying to
Mm-hmm.
be like, like, explain this. Like, the gaslighting from the Doctor and Belinda, though, is
Right.
so fucking absurd to me.
Yes.
Like, I get Belinda doesn't have that connection with Ruby, but you're
Mm-hmm.
telling me that Ruby would try to tell this piece of information to the Doctor, and the Doctor would be like, "No, you're just remembering it wrong," and then
Mm-hmm.
proceed to gaslight her.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's accurate of their relationship, and I
Yep.
feel like even despite I feel like the reason they mention infertility is because the Doctor would never believe that he had a kid,
Yeah.
which is fine. I still think that the Doctor, though, would have been like, "What do you mean?" And, dove into that
Questioned
for a
it.
second after literally everything that just happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, a lot of crazy shit just happened regardless of if you remember Poppy or not. Like, a lot of crazy shit just happened that you remember. You wouldn't just dive into it with her a little bit. You're just immediately like, "Nah."
Nah, man.
Girl,
You
you cray
talking
cray.
nonsense.
Cray
What you
cray. All of a
talking?
sudden, Belinda is fully turned around to being like, let's go on these adventures."
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't believe that Belinda would say that she didn't want Poppy to have a boring life. Like, I truly that was so not like Belinda's character to be like, "We're gonna go here, and we're gonna go here and see all these things with our daughter." Like
Mhm.
that didn't feel believable to me in terms of how Belinda would have acted.
Mhm.
Seeing that they just went through all of this to protect Poppy, to then
Yep.
be like, "Let's go on another adventure and put Poppy in danger," and I was like, "This is all falling apart.
Mhm.
Oh my god."
Yep. Yeah,
The
no.
doctor is poor Ruby gets gaslit so much in this show
Yep, she does.
by her boyfriend, by her mom and her grandma, by the doctor, like, oh my god.
At first, when that scene was playing out,
Mhm,
because of the doctor's reaction to what Ruby was saying,
mhm,
I thought what was happening was that the doctor recognized what was going on and was
mhm,
trying to save Belinda from the potential heartbreak, and that he
mhm.
was going to, like, once Belinda was out of the way or whatever, he was going to have a scene with Ruby to explain that he also knew
Yeah,
what was going on. Though that's how, like you say, like how weird it felt that he was instantly, like you say, gaslighting her to
and dismissive,
and dismissive
like,
of it.
so
I
dismissive,
was like,
yeah,
I feel like, okay, maybe he knows what's happened and he's trying to save face a little bit and not like breaking it to Belinda like this, or whatever's going on.
yeah,
But no, it turns out that he also has just completely forgotten and is
mhm.
rejecting the whole thing. And I also feel like this.
It's okay to forget and not think it's believable, I just don't
Mhm.
think you would treat your
Yes,
best friend
yes.
that way.
I feel like he would be more open to what she was suggesting. Like,
Yeah, hear her out versus just like, "Nah, you crazy."
mm. And I'd also think when they come out of the TARDIS back into
Mhm,
unit, I think maybe potentially this is where the reshoots start happening from this point
mm, I could see
onwards.
that, yeah.
I've seen a few people comment on, particularly on Ruby's wig changing
Mhm,
quite drastically
mhm,
from the TARDIS
mhm.
interior to the unit interior. Um, and then we get to the another bit of awful Gemma Redgrave, who plays Kate Stewart, wonderful performer, but even she can't sell the line of "Sometimes I think we're all your children." I fucking gagged. So
My
bad.
god.
So like that's
Daddy?
you can you cannot
Doctor?
you cannot sell that line no matter how hard you try.
No, and I also don't wanna think about that as a concept, it's fucking weird, that means that the doctor at one point fell in love with one of his children. Like, just don't go there.
So yeah.
Multiple times the doctor has fallen in love with their children. Please just don't
Hmm.
go there. It was weird. I don't understand why you needed to say it that way. You could have just left it as like, "No, life is unimportant to you," and
Yeah.
not said, "They're kind of like all of our dads." I like yeah,
We also
I'll leave it there.
within this, when
I'll leave it there.
when the doctor's starting to realize what's going on and Belinda's starting to realize what's going on and they're all re-waking up again, we also get callbacks to Church and Ruby Road, where pushes himself to the limit to make
Mhm.
sure Ruby comes back into existence, which I thought was, oh, that's a good link there to use
Yeah.
to wake him up and to make him realize this has happened before, and it was a good
Yeah.
connection there. But then we get the most bizarre moment where a deleted scene or something where
Yeah,
the
yeah,
doc
the car.
the car scene, which
Yeah.
comes out of nowhere, where the doctor
Mhm.
apparently saved Belinda from a car when she was a child. That just wasn't seeded at all earlier in the season. Like, I know they had the thing where she's talking about with Revolution, where he shot through her life like a bullet, but there's no
Yeah.
implication there to say that he saved her life as a child at any
Mhm.
given moment. Like, it
Mhm.
just seems to swing out of left field, completely out of nowhere. This revelation.
Yeah. I don't think "We're all your children" was needed.
No, it
I
will
think
absolutely
with
wasn't.
Ruby it was potent enough.
Hmm.
Also, another thing to note here, we see Anita say goodbye,
Yes.
and she goes, the boss says hi."
Yep. The boss. We're gonna
Yeah,
park that for
the
now.
boss. Yeah, yeah, part of me wonders if it's Mrs. Flood who flew off
Possibly.
and is now the boss,
Yeah.
or if it's
Potentially.
literally just and No, I'm not gonna say my crazy theory, though.
Yeah, your crazy theory could still come true.
Mhm.
We don't know.
It could, yeah, 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 I'm not gonna talk about it yet.
We still haven't got an explanation as to
No,
the fourth wall
nope,
breaks. No one's explained
yep,
that so far. Like why the Rani was literally telling the audience that the Doctor's life will end in terror. That didn't get explained at all. But yeah, the boss. The boss is like obviously you introduced with the Meep with David Tennant, a
mhm.
plot line that we haven't really done much with. Again, it brought up with Rogue as well in that episode.
You know what's so funny though? I did watch an interview with Shooty talking about that, and when he was, God, what I can't remember the actor's name that plays Rogue,
Jonathan Groff.
but at the yeah, Jonathan at the time of recording had told Shooty like, "Yeah, it was really weird. I had to like go back and do a green screen scene, and I had no idea what it's about." And then Shooty being like, "Oh, I don't know, man. Maybe they'll bring it back up later, maybe."
That was like
That was
as far
so
as like
funny to me.
as far as I can tell, that was the most pre-planned thing that's
The
been done
season has,
in the
yeah,
season. Like we
yeah,
knew we wanted this scene at this point in terms of how things have been going, in terms of the boss. I
mhm,
honestly wouldn't be surprised if the boss literally turns out to be the boss from the John Pertwee story, The Green Death. I wouldn't be surprised. Who is just a big robot who is called the boss. Like, we've seen now that Russell doesn't mind just putting something completely just under your nose and is like,
yeah,
I'm just going to be completely literal with it and it's going to be what you. You bet you weren't expecting this, Russell.
yeah, I guess,
Russell. I don't know. It would make
I
no
guess,
sense how the boss, because the boss is destroyed at the end of the Green Death. It's like one and done,
yeah,
whatever. But I mean, I hope it's not that. In fact, I hope it's someone new. If I'm going to be honest, I really hope it's a completely new element. But the way we're setting it up and referring to it seems like
mhm,
it has to be an old thing returning. Because like, if you do this amount of setup for it, it feels like it has to pay off in some way. Maybe it's Susan.
sure.
Maybe it's Susan in the future. God knows. Maybe we won't even ever find out with until we get a sense of what the production is actually going to be doing moving forward. With it may be something that never ever gets paid off, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it does seem to be a common trend
hmm
a little bit.
Yeah. So from here, it comes back to people's mind that Poppy should be here but isn't here. So the Doctor says the only thing that can shift reality in a way where Poppy could come back into existence and sort out the weird little glitches that are happening around Earth still after the aftermath of all of this is that
Mhm,
he basically has to unalive himself to do so. It
yep,
becomes the case. He has to
yep,
feed his regeneration energy into the TARDIS and do a big old zappy zap. Literal. It's
mhm.
what I said last week. I
Magic
wouldn't
reset?
a magic reset where the Doctor has to sacrifice himself in order to do so. Literally what I said
Mhm,
last week. So
mhm,
at least there's a consequence to having to reset the universe in such a way. Like there is an
mhm,
actual dramatic consequence to it.
yeah.
However, oh my god, it feels like I just feel bad for Shooty's tenure for him. Like what he's
Yeah,
got, what
he's
he's.
he's still did a great job though, and
hmm
I think he really brought a amazing aspect
hmm
to the Doctor. For his
Yeah,
reasons for leaving, that's fine.
he's young. His star is on the rise.
Mhm,
There's other things he wants to do. He's doing a lot of theatre. He's got theatre lined up,
mhm,
and I'm sure he's in talks for other projects and be they
yeah,
film, TV, whatever it might be. And he doesn't want to be like we were talking about a couple weeks ago. He doesn't want to be stuck in limbo while the production sorts its shit out on what they're actually going to
yeah,
be doing next. So I don't blame
and
him
I think
at all for wanting to leave, being
no,
like, I need to
I think
go
it's fair.
work, and not
Right,
just be
like
sat around
yeah.
waiting.
I think it's different if you've already been established and you have, like, a
Hmm.
security cushion and you know, like, this is kind of like, "Okay, I'm in a moment in my life where I can take a pause,"
Yes.
essentially. He is young and he is in demand and he has a lot of talent, and I think you have to keep working on your career, right? Like, you have to keep making money. You
Yeah.
have to keep trying projects, especially at this point where it feels like you're kind of at somewhat of a peak or going up towards a peak
hmm
to really get your name out there, and if it's just gonna be stuck in limbo and
And
you're seeing kind of this feedback of what's happening,
it's a real
it's
shame.
tough.
it's a real shame because he seems to
He
have
did a great
such
job.
a love for the show and for the part in particular.
Yeah.
And he seems like,
Yeah.
I would love to do more, but there's some behind the scenes shit going on
Yeah.
where I have no control over it. And like I
Mhm.
say, I can't. I get it. You can't just be waiting around at this stage in his career to do it. But
Yeah.
so that's the saddest thing about it, is that he clearly
Oh,
would
yeah.
love to keep doing it.
Yeah,
But
seeing his goodbye
yeah,
video and interviews made me cry.
yeah.
I got emotional. I did love this scene though.
Yes. So then we crack into a scene which,
Mm.
so the Doctor is resolute in that he's going to have to regenerate in order to fix
Yeah.
things. TARDIS, very reminiscently to when Peter Capaldi regenerated, starts
Mhm.
kind of communicating with the Doctor to say, look,
Mhm.
I know you like this face, but you've had all these other faces. It's going to be okay. You got to do what
Mhm.
you got to do, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah,
then Jodie Whittaker pops up.
my love.
Here's the thing about
My
this.
love. Don't
We'll
you
talk. We'll
dare.
talk about the scene in a
Don't you
moment.
dare.
We'll talk about the
Don't
scene in a
you
moment.
dare. I'll
But
fight you over this.
the thing is, the
I'm a
scene's great.
therapist.
The scene's great. Like the interaction between them's great, etc., etc. But the
Yeah.
mere existence of the scene is so pointless. Like, it does not need to be there.
Nah,
And
I mean,
Shooty's
yeah.
regeneration, both coming into the show and out of the show, is overshadowed by a previous Doctor being there. And
Yeah.
the whole scene just smacks of Russell going, I'm going to distract you with a shaky toy. It's a happy
Yeah.
thing. Yay. Have some sweets.
Yeah.
Have some sweet. I just smacked the microphone.
Wow.
Have some sweets. Don't pay attention to what's
Wow.
happening because we're trying to gloss over this. So the fact that the scene exists irks me a bit for those reasons. However, what I will say is that I did like the scene in that it felt like the handing over of the torch that we maybe should have got,
Yeah. Yes.
like originally.
Mhm.
Like it is genuinely nice to have these two Doctors, these two actors in a scene together.
Yep.
Because it feels particularly meaningful, because if
Mhm.
it feels like both of their eras have received the shaft for various different reasons,
Yep.
and production wise and
Mhm.
like fan opinion wise, for both of them, wildly, this is some of the most doctorly either of them have been on screen, which
Chef's kiss.
is so wild to me. Another thing I will say that I want to point out is that, like I
Mhm.
said earlier, that Murray's music for this episode was bombastic throughout and nutty and a bit much, if I'm being completely honest.
Mhm. Mm.
However, I loved his rendition of the, like, I guess we'll call it a 13th Doctor theme. Like, it's not
Mhm.
her theme, it's not the same thing at all, but it's like reminiscent of it, and it's all kind of synthy, and it kind of reminded me of Tron Legacy a little bit, Daft Punk's
Uh,
score. Genuinely, the music just greatly personified Jodie's Doctor to me, like this kind of
yeah.
upbeat, passionate, hopeful version of the character. And it's a wonderful, in isolation, it is a wonderful
Mhm.
scene. Just getting to see the two of them in a scene together, riffing off of each other, like clearly having a ball doing so.
Yeah.
And
I think they were both great doctors, and I think, like, you get to see the peak of both of those characteristics in them
mhm,
in this scene.
yeah.
The tongue-in-cheek comment of, "At least it's not the other one, he's always showing up."
Yeah.
Valid. Valid and fair.
Hmm.
Especially since we have absolutely no idea where the fuck he is.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Never wrapped that up.
Hmm.
Never wrapped that up, did we? But I did appreciate that we had kind of this, like, moment of passing the torch. Also, they did touch into Yaz
Hmm.
and the saying that you love, like, "I love you." What makes me more upset about this is you could see it's kind of a way of trying to, like, wrap things up from Jodie's season, so you can do it for that, but you literally can't do it for anything else that you have written into a motherfucking plot
Yeah.
these entire 2 seasons. Like, what the literal fuck?
It did. You're right.
What the literal fuck?
It felt like it did generally feel like, oh, that's such a nice wrap up for Jodie's
Yeah,
era,
yeah, beautiful. Like,
and
they're
yeah,
great together.
and
Touched on the yeah situation and another queer romance that was kind of teased and then just
nothing really
shut
happened with.
down. Yeah, which is kind of tragic, but But, like, showing that, like, yeah, still knew the doctor loved her.
Mhm.
Cute. But just, like, it's so sad that we get, like, that for Jodie,
Mhm.
but literally everything else, both companion-wise, normal people-wise, and doctor-wise in this, not yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, that's just my opinion on it. I did love seeing them together, I love Jodie. I did see Jodie's, like, interview going into the scene,
Mhm.
and she's, like, dressed up, and she's like, "I still feel like I look great, don't I?" And, like, I thought it was really cute, minus the wig. But then she's even saying, like, she's like, "I haven't met him before." Like, that was
Yeah.
them meeting,
Yeah, yeah.
was that scene,
Which is often
which
the
is pretty
case.
fucking wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was comment, though, of, like, I was clearly the best doctor, though, and she even said it in her interview. She's like, "I'm about to meet the best doctor." I yeah, I'm not gonna dive too much into that, but I thought it was cute for them.
Yeah.
I love Jodie. Oh my g she needs more justice. I feel like I was more upset than this than I ever was at the time this child concept, truly.
Oh, no, for real,
Like,
like,
all of it. Like, this was way worse, and I feel like hopefully everyone can go back now and be like, "Well,
at least
maybe this wasn't that
uh,
bad."
even though I didn't like the Timeless Child storyline, at
Yeah.
least it was comprehensible. Like, I
Yeah, and it was pretty wrapped up. I don't know, man.
I understood what
Ugh.
they were trying to do with that,
Mhm.
at least. I
Yeah.
didn't like it, but I understood it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whereas this, I'm like, what is going on? What, like,
Mhm.
what is this? What does any of this mean? Like I say, in isolation, I really like the scene. I liked
Yeah.
seeing Jodie. Um, I'm more or less on record as saying like both Shooty and Jodie aren't my favorites of the Doctors, largely stemming from more so what their eras have going on within them rather than
Mhm.
them. It was like I say, it was seeing that scene was genuinely nice, and like I say, having the particularly the two of them in a scene together felt poignant, more
Mhm.
so than most other things happening within this story.
Yeah.
So yeah, from there, the Doctor zaps the console with his regeneration energy. We have this glass breaking effect, which I assume signifies the breaking of reality and then it reforging itself back together again.
Literally all it looked to me was like Final Destination when they did the
Yeah,
3D movie.
right. Yeah, you're not wrong. uh, But yeah, then we cut to Shooty waking up in the garden, and at first, when I first saw him waking up in that garden, I thought, "Are we gonna have the fucking 14th Doctor show up as well?" Because at first I thought, are we
Yeah.
in the garden? Is he gonna
Oh,
pop
for
up as
me,
well?
I was like, "Okay, can we change Mavity back now?" It's like, "Is this the Mavity garden?"
I don't know if I'm right, but I saw
It was
someone's.
optimistic thinking, sorry.
No, I did see. I think someone mentioned it. I wasn't keeping an eye out for it. I should have been, but someone said that Kate says something about gravity in the unit tower and doesn't say Mavity.
Oh,
So
maybe I missed it.
slip up if that's the case. Continuity slip. What's going on there? Anyway, yes, he
Yeah.
wakes up in a garden which has
Mhm.
clearly been color graded and lit in such a way to make you think it's summer, but you can see see all their breath. So filmed
Mhm.
in winter.
Mhm.
But it is revealed that this is Belinda's back garden.
Mhm.
Poppy has come back into existence,
Yep.
but is now 100% human. And that this was the whole reason in this reality she was trying to get home, was that
Yes.
her baby was alone and she had to be
Yep.
back by this time. This is real awkward and bizarre. And I get that this was reshoots and they had to try and make this work somehow because this clearly wasn't the original intent. But when the part one of your story was almost fundamentally about the fact about they signpost it, it's very pointed that
Mhm.
the whole thing about good wife, good mother, and the way that that's shown to be like that we're beyond that. That's not where we are anymore for women and etc etc. Like that's not where we're at. For Belinda's storyline to be wrapped up with her being, well, you don't get to go on adventures anymore. You've got to stay home and be a good mother is beyond ridiculous. It's so bizarre.
Mhm.
And it goes for Ruby as
Mhm.
well. Like Ruby's packed off to go, hey, you've got a baby that you're kind of in care of. So like it
There's
scrambled
too
my
much
brain.
conversation about babies. and the pregnancy in this episode for me. Like, all of it.
Like,
Cumulative, you're trying to make a statement, but then you just drop the ball of your statement.
no one picked up on this. No one picked up on this. That part one of this story had such a pointed thing about how that is not who Belinda
Mhm.
is in particular, but also the greater point of that's not who women are anymore in our
Mhm.
modern age, and then wrap the story up with, nah, she's gonna go be a good mother. That's where her story wraps up. Like, it's awful. It's
I
actually
truly like
awful.
it is. We also get Poppy babbling and then saying data, indicating
Did she
like
really? I
even
didn't
though
even
she's like
notice that.
so it just says Poppy babbles, but it says after Uncle Doctor. It
Hmm.
sounds like she says data.
I
Hold on,
guess
let me try here again.
there's an open endedness there if they want to come back to it at some point, I suppose.
But,
Um.
like, here there's so many ways like, the child if you want the child to stay, and we make the whole episode about the child being alive and staying, you obviously can't get rid of the child, but I do
Mhm.
feel like, could the child not have stayed with the other doctor and Donna and her family versus putting this on, like, Belinda, who is very strong-willed and
Mhm.
strong-minded, and, like, even if this is originally written for Ruby, that would be even more tragic. Fucking 20 years old. Imagine sticking like 2 children on Ruby or I don't know, like, just c like, let's just be so for real. Companions
It's
don't just wanna be parents once they're done,
it
right?
just
There's
seems.
complexities to them, and we know some of them are parents, and it plays out much better
Mhm.
than this.
It just seems remarkably tone deaf given the
Yeah.
story that you literally just told.
Mhm. Yep.
Remarkably.
No comment about the doctor's bum
Yeah, right.
from the
We've got
mom, who's
yeah.
literally right there, they're meeting. Seemingly, we don't care about the dad anymore that we've heard about so many times. Belinda's dad doesn't matter.
No. Yeah, that's another
Gone.
thing. Well, we know
Like,
that
we
scenes must have been cut because the actor who played her dad was out like on Instagram talking about the scene that he
yeah.
filmed.
Yep.
Where'd that go?
Like,
Where's
I
that
d
gone? And I do wonder, just because we know some of this information and because we're fans and we look into it, I do have to wonder how it plays to an audience who maybe aren't looking into that stuff, and if it feels as obvious to them that some tomfoolery has clearly gone on to make this all work.
hey, like,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I maybe not, but I still feel like she talked about her dad all the time,
Mm,
regardless of, like, if this is supposed to be for Ruby or someone else, like, she talked about her dad a lot.
yes,
We
she did.
acknowledge the dad exists, we don't get that moment, and we also don't get the fucking nice butt moment.
That's what. Let me tell you, folks. Tash has been looking forward to the nice butt comment so much.
Why mention it?
I did note here, on top of the whole how I'm just gonna say how garbage this resolution is for Belinda. The doctor's
And
reaction
she's
to
working
it,
night shifts.
yeah, right, like dropped her off as a single mother working night shifts, barely getting by.
Yep.
And this comes into the note that I've made here that the doctor seems to wallow more in his own sadness about the fact that Poppy isn't his daughter anymore and that he's
Mhm.
changed that reality, rather than feeling any kind of guilt about how he's changed Belinda's life
Reality?
and
Yeah.
reality. And like, there's no sense of that at all.
Mhm.
Which I felt there should have been because they play because that would have played into what the Rani said earlier in the episode, where she was
Mhm.
saying the doctor strides around pretending to be like you lot, but he isn't. And
Mhm.
that would have felt at least like some kind of like the doctor having to look at himself moment.
Can have a
And
consequence,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
like
and then
what.
especially going into the next generation,
Hmm.
like, we do fuck up. Doctor fucks up a lot.
Hmm.
It's okay.
But
Like,
there's no acknowledgement
just
of
more
it.
power. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not gonna grow from it.
I was
Seemingly, what
not
we get to see the
pleased.
lecture that David Tennant's doctor needs to be healed and grow
Hmm.
from the implications of what happened there, and we get to have Shooty giving that sequence, then we have this where it's just like,
Yeah, it's.
Glad you're happy, I guess. Bye."
And also on top of all that, we don't actually get like a goodbye scene for Ruby
No.
at all. There's just too much. There's too much going on, and there was no way in hell you could resolve all of this satisfactorily for everyone. And rather than getting one really strong conclusion to at least one plot element, we get a bunch of very muddled mid awful ones
Yep.
instead. But yeah, the doctor says goodbye to Belinda and Poppy, saying, "Hey, maybe I'll see you again, but not like this," as a kind of a callback to Christopher Eccleston, saying maybe we'll go do all this, but not like this, not with this daft old face. So yeah, we get to the Doctor floating in space once again, saying he doesn't want to do this on his own, and in the wildest of callbacks, it's like, "Hey, Joy, what's up?" What's going on, Joy? How's it like being a star?
I'm
What's it
never
like?
alone.
What's it like being a star who consumed her mother, who was dying of COVID? How's it being out there? Oh my god! And then I will say I did like the effect of the regeneration, like bursting out like a star itself. I did like that shot and that effect, and I did really like the shot of the TARDIS console in the dark just being lit up by the regeneration effect. I did like that shot a lot. So then we get to our next, what wasn't actually a surprise because it leaked, and I believe I managed to avoid this one, but I do think the Jodie thing got leaked as well. But I managed to avoid.
I got to avoid both of them.
Yeah.
Until last week's episode.
Billy Piper's face superimposed onto Shooty's body, because that definitely is not Billy Piper's shoulders or her neck. in that ending shot.
Nope.
So yeah, I guess the thing that everyone is going on about is that she's not credited as the Doctor, interestingly. So a lot of speculation as to, is it something to do with the TARDIS and the heart of the TARDIS, that Rose looked into the heart of the TARDIS, and getting down to it, you can speculate as much as you like, and I'm sure some people care. I do not. I do not give two shits about whatever this is going to be. To me, and I slept on this, I thought about this, bringing back Billy Piper is like the most creatively bankrupt thing you could have done. And it smacks of desperation, even more so than bringing David Tennant back the first time. And it's so much of Russell just going back to the well. What can I bring back? What can I bring back that will hook people back? It's like, you know what would have hooked people back? If this is going to be like another stand-in Doctor for a placeholder until you cast the next actual person, which is ridiculous, by the way, that we're doing that again. If that's what this is going to be, get like a big name, like get a John Hurt, get someone who is like, makes people go, oh shit, that is someone I never thought would play this part. Do something like that. Don't bring fucking Billy Piper. Nothing against Billy Piper, by the way. Wonderful actor. It's great to see that she's doing, like, she's been doing some passion projects of hers recently, and, you know, all the best wishes to Billy Piper. No, like, nothing against her, but in terms of bringing her in to either play a numberless version of the Doctor or some kind of placeholder character, because I've seen some people theorize that maybe she's going to step out of, like, the Doctor's body and the Doctor's going to be stuck in regeneration, and she's going to have to try and resolve the situation and push the regeneration to take place, or, you know, something along those kind of lines. But then I'm asking the question, how excited am I to see an episode of Doctor Who which doesn't actually properly feature the character of Doctor Who? An entity that is like part TARDIS, part Doctor, I suppose, combined? Because one of the statements I did see from Russell was, and I think maybe even Billy, was it Billy who said it? I don't think so. I think it was mainly Russell who was saying that. But who, what, why? Particular emphasis on who is Billy playing. I'm just so not interested. And maybe I would have been more interested had we not just done this. Had we not literally just done the same thing a couple of years ago. Like I said, had we got Jodie straight into Shooty.
Yeah,
and
this would
now,
have had a better impact.
And then this, it would have had some sort of meaningful impact to me. But I'm so like, can we just skip over that and get to like, can we just get to like whoever the actual next Doctor is going to be? I get they're in this situation where they're in a rock and a hard place of, we can't just have the Doctor regenerate and not reveal who it's going to be, because that could just be a sign off for the show forever.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't know now though, still.
Well, I think the gambit here is that we've got something and we need to pay it off. Like, so the BBC will be like, even if they don't do it with Disney, will be like, okay, we're going to make a special or specials to do something with this. If they just had it end with regeneration, glow face, fade to white or whatever, credits, that could have just been it. That's like full stop for the next 5 to 10 years, and we never get any resolutions to anything that's been happening in this era. So like I say, I feel like the gambit is to have someone pop up at the end, so there's something where, well, we have to do something with this.
We have to move forward.
We can't leave it there. At least on the BBC's part, whether Disney or not decides to take part in that, that's a whole other thing. But no, I've been ranting. how are you? How are you with the prospect of whatever Billie Piper is playing? Be it the Doctor, be it a numberless Doctor, be it an entity born of the TARDIS and the Doctor, whatever it might end up being.
I'm not interested. I'm not interested in seeing Billie Piper again. I had a bigger meltdown yesterday, but then I got calmed down. Yeah. Fucking bring Joe Martin back and do something there.
That would have been better.
Like, oh Jesus Christ!
If you,
I don't like. I'm not interested in Billie Piper being back. I feel like there could have been other options. I feel like you wrote so many complexities into this era. I don't blame Shooty for leaving. It's tragic to see Shooty go. There's just other like loose ends I think you could have incorporated, since Russell loves loose ends, rather than Billie Piper.
Adding Billie Piper into the mix feels like, obviously some people have brought up like maybe she's some version of Bad Wolf again, and it's like, why? That was tied up, done, dusted. Like, why bring it? Why bring that old shit back up?
Close the current loose ends before we keep opening up more loose ends. Is my only ask.
Exactly. Like you say, like having Joe Martin pop up, that would have been something interesting if you want to bring back an old face. Another version, and this is my old school fan brain, like something else. The only two old faces that would have got me genuinely excited to, like, oh, we're going to bring them back and do something with them, would have been Joe Martin or Paul McGann. Those were the only two options that would have got me like, oh, we're actually going to do something with these versions. Yeah. Because they had such short-lived televised versions of themselves. So we can actually...
Yeah, and it's all still a loose end, like...
Yeah. Those are the only two people who could have popped up that were already existing faces.
Yeah.
That would have got me excited. Otherwise, like I say, I feel like you should have... If it's going to be a placeholder version until you sort your shit out, basically... It should just been someone ridiculous that we would have been like, oh shit, they're gonna do it, like even if it's just for a little bit. But yeah, the prospect of Billie Piper doing it does not excite me.
I feel like I emotionally shut off by this time of the episode too. I just couldn't take any more. There wasn't any shock value. There was just like not enough eye rolls for the entire universe to sum up.
I will say at this point, now that we've kind of managed to get through most of this episode now, is that I will apologize if there was some ramblings and tangents, and
I know I was fiddling with my hair a bunch, but it was the tism and I was holding back a lot.
No, sometimes I feel like when we're recording these and I'm trying to make a point about something, especially when it's in regards to something in the episode that feels very convoluted and just untangible in a lot of ways, and like, what does this all mean? I feel like when I'm trying to explain that and review it, I become equally untangible trying to figure it out and express it in some way. That's the reality war. That's the finale for this season. And I want to stress again, I feel like even though I have had issues again with this season, like, upon reflection, there was a lot of this season stuck in studios. It would have been nice for more location filming, especially since they've got a budget to presumably do that. It is a shame that a lot of the season seemed to be locked in studios, and like I say, 45 minutes, not long enough. That's been a problem for ages. And just the format is not working in this form. I think we can all agree. 8 45-minute episodes, or with a slightly longer finale episode, just is not the way. It is not the way to tell these stories. I think we can all kind of agree on. I thought this season, the finale notwithstanding, was a lot stronger than last season. I thought
for sure.
I thought Shooty was, even though I still was like not appreciative of the amount of costume changes and not getting to see his iconic Doctor outfit basically at all this whole season, I don't
Yeah.
think, did we even see it once? I can't even remember if we saw it once in
We
this
did.
whole season. Oh, we did see it. We saw it in
Yeah.
Lucky Day. We saw it briefly in Lucky Day. But yeah, I did feel like Shooty was much more recognizably the Doctor for me this season compared to last season, and he seemed a lot more comfortable with it. I
Mhm.
really liked Belinda. I just felt like she got the shaft quite a lot, especially towards the end of the season, because I felt like their dynamic was really good, and
Yeah.
I liked watching it grow and change as it went along. Like I say, kind of a shame that it culminated the way that it did in this finale, and a way
Yeah.
that felt ridiculously out of character and like just a mess. And as because this is a regeneration story for Shooty, that was not
Mhm.
originally going to be a regeneration story, which is
Mhm.
not a task I envy for anyone
No.
involved to try and
Yeah.
convert this into one. It wasn't emotionally satisfying goodbye for him, at least for me. It just very much felt a little bit like, well, I've had my go, off I go. I'm just happy that we got something like The Well out of this season. I enjoyed Lux as well, and the story and the engine I
Mhm.
liked as well. Like, so there was, like, as much as we're down on this finale, I do want to emphasize there was some good shit in this season. But I guess we have to score this because we didn't score last week's. We combining them all, combining last week's and this week's into one. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. The points that it are for the visuals, because it was, like I say, seeing it in cinemas, it was visually very impressive. When it
Mhm.
was actually doing visually interesting things, a lot of the story ends up just being people standing around in a room talking at each other. But when it's not doing
Mhm.
that, it is very visually interesting. The performers giving it their darndest, giving it their
Mhm.
absolute best that they can, working with that material, because, like I say, they had some fucking rough dialogue to work with, and they did what they could with it. Also, I want to give props to, like, the art team, like the set dressing and all of that stuff. That was really good.
Mhm.
Like everything else, like the storylines, the plot lines are all very shallow deep or extremely convoluted. And I wouldn't even be surprised to hear some people say, especially in regards to how Belinda's story is wrapped up and bordering on offensive. Yeah. So 3 out of 10 from me.
I think I give it a 2, if I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest.
No, I get it.
Yeah, I like everyone that you said did a great job. I don't think I've ever been this version of done with bullshit with this. Like, I've
Mm.
always held out hope, and I, of course, will like, I want Doctor Who to succeed. I'll always
Yes.
hold out hope for Doctor Who. It's important to a lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
regardless if people understand that or not. Like, we don't want it to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's so much about what happened that, like, was just so insensitive at the worst times, like empty statements. It was just too not thought out, I guess, is the nicest way I can say it. I'm all for lore changing sometimes. Like, I get it. You want your fresh, innovative point
Yeah.
to this. I just feel like in this quest to be innovative, like, you don't just have to destroy everything else on the way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can leave your mark and not tarnish at the same time,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And yeah, it got 2. 2 out of 10. Everyone, like, the poor actors who gave it their all, honestly.
Yeah, your point is that, and it was kind of there last season as well, but then this season came in starting, oh, this is okay, this is good, and then it got better, and I was like, I'm enjoying it. This is okay, I think
Mhm,
we're on the rise here. And then this finale just swung right back to last year in terms of, I don't know if this is working for me on any conceivable level. And I've never felt like that ever with Doctor Who.
yeah,
Not
mind you,
once.
things you cannot like things, and it's still you can see how it works.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's how I was all of Jodie's season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and some Capaldi episodes didn't work for me, but I could see, like, just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's not logic,
Mm-hmm.
or there doesn't mean there's no logic behind
I
it. This was just fucking
I feel like with the Jodie stuff and the Capaldi stuff, there was a lot of stuff there that was just down to personal taste
yeah.
and why
Mhm,
it didn't work for some people and it did work for other people. With this, I would love for someone who loved this to tell me why they loved it. Because I
mhm.
maybe it's short sighted of me, maybe I'm ignorant, maybe the problem is me, but I
Mhm.
genuinely do not understand what's
Yeah.
good here. Like yeah, it's a whole thing. And I don't want to be too much of a Debbie Downer because obviously, like you say, we love this show. We want it to be good. We want it to succeed, and we'll
Mhm.
always, no matter no matter how bad it gets, I will always wave the flag for the show and be like,
Mhm.
the core concept of the show is so good and so strong. It's always worth rolling the dice on it to do something with it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
and you know, when the show's 60+ years old, it's not all going to be winners. You know,
Mhm.
you have to accept that. Like, it's not always going to be a winner when it's run that long. But yeah, it's particularly, I've never felt this way about any era of the show before, which is what's particularly disheartening about it. There's been stuff which I didn't like as much, for sure.
Mhm.
Stuff that I felt just wasn't working for me, but I kind of saw what they were trying to do. But this is just like a whole other place of what? What? like like I say, just
Yep.
create, because I've never felt like the show has been this, like I said earlier, and I feel like it's an overused statement, but I feel like it's applicable here. Just creatively bankrupt. That's what it feels like. Like someone who doesn't know what, doesn't, like I say, has no interest in actually writing Doctor Who. It feels like,
Yeah.
and is trying
For
to,
someone who knows so much about Doctor Who too,
yeah,
though, like, that's the most tragic part. It wasn't like someone
mm-hmm,
new came in and wrote this
mm-hmm,
and didn't understand the history. Like, you understood the history
mm-hmm.
very well.
We know you know this. What are you
Yeah,
doing?
and, like, if you're going for shock factor, there's ways to do shock factor where it's not just exhausting.
Let's move
Yeah.
on before we get too depressed, because we've got a couple of things to do before we wrap up the episode.
Mhm.
Firstly, the trailer for the war between the land and the sea. Am I disappointed that that the sea devils don't look like fishmen in fish nets?
We literally just saw the Sea Devils
Yes,
recently.
we did. Yes,
Why
I am,
why
because
yeah.
they got to be sexy sea devils. You understand?
No.
They have to be sexy because Russell Tovey has to shag one of them. That's that's why. I would have loved it so much more if he has to shag a sea devil that looks like the old school sea devils.
Just look at Star Wars, right? They don't make things more palatable and more
Mm-hmm.
human looking for romantic scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the redesign of the sea devils.
Well, especially since we
But
just fucking saw the Sea Devils. I just
mm-hmm.
can't.
it's it's a it's the same issue I
Ugh.
have with the Silurians. It's like I will say it is a
At least
wonderful
they at least still
it's
look like them a
it's
little
a
bit.
it's a great, I don't want to be down on the fact that, because it is a great prosthetic, great makeup job. It
Yeah.
looks amazing for what it is. It just isn't a sea devil. It just, that's the long and short of it. It just isn't a sea
Yeah.
devil. And I'm sure there'll be some line of dialogue in there. Oh, this is a different tribe, so that's why they look different to the ones we've seen previously, or whatever the fuck. But other than that, tonally looking at it, it feels it feels more like an episode of Doctor Who than what this episode was. In a lot of ways, like an actual, like, kind of like political thriller unit story, which is what
Mhm.
we used to get with like the John Pertwee era. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's like visually it looks like they've put some money into it. It's got good actors in it, but it is hard to have faith in it with what we just saw. There's no official release date, but I think it may be November time that that's coming out,
Mm.
possibly. So I guess, you know, we'll talk about it when it airs. And
Mhm. I want it
I
to succeed. I don't even
yes,
have that many concerns about it right now.
of
Like,
course,
truly,
yeah.
I'm not apprehensive about it. I think it's gonna
Hmm.
be something to watch. I can see being related to Doctor Who, but separate from Doctor Who at the same time.
Yes,
The Sea Devils took me
yeah.
by surprise, and I had to look it up to make sure I still knew what the plot of this was supposed to be, because I was like, "Those are supposed to be sea devils, right?"
Hmm.
And in my mind, I was like, "Did I just misremember it? Like, am I just misremembering, like, what this is supposed to be about?"
Yeah.
And then, no, I wasn't, and I was like, "Well, you know, that's the thing."
Yeah.
Um,
I'm half
but
expecting it because obviously Pete McTighe, who wrote Praxius during the Jodie Whittaker era, which was
Mhm.
again about plastic in the ocean,
Yep.
and a big plot point about this is the sea devils being
I actually really
disturbed
like that episode too.
by the pollution in the seas and stuff. So everyone was
Yeah.
like, "Why are the sea devils not in this story?" When when Praxis came out, it
Yeah.
feels like the perfect opportunity to have sea
Yeah.
devils in this story. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do pick up on elements from Praxis in some way. But yeah, the War Between the Land and the Sea, we'll talk about it when it airs, of course, whenever that ends up being. Based on that trailer, though, it's like, okay, it looks kind of like Torchwood 2.0, I guess, but with Unit instead of Torchwood. And I hope like Gemma Redgrave gets some interesting things to do as Kate. After this episode, Reality War, I was a bit like, I don't know how well this new Unit family's really working, because we're not really doing anything interesting with any of them, really, and they all seem very interchangeable, and like I don't feel like I really know any of them 2 years in during the John Pertwee years, which is clearly trying to replicate like the Unit family from that era. Is that Sergeant Benton, Captain Yates, the Brigadier, like they all made regular appearances. There were stories that gave them more to do as individuals, and like there would be one story that would have, oh, let's have Captain Yates be more involved within this story. Oh, in this story we'll have Sergeant Benton be more involved. So you built up like dynamics between everyone, and that hasn't been the case with this new family. They're just kind of there, and like we swapped out Shirley for Morris, so it's like, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit detached from them as characters, and so I don't know. I hope that the War Between the Land and the Sea can like bandage that a little bit.
To that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where we are with that. As for moving forward with the podcast, what we're going to be doing next, now that the season has aired, it is over, and we can all move on with our lives. We have some plans in the works. We probably are going to do. It's going to be a bigger project for us on the podcast to do our overview of the Jodie Whittaker years. Like I've said previously, we're going to split that into 3 parts. So we're going to
Justice for Jodie is going to be fucking delightful after this shit.
It's going to be.
Listen, you're going to see me in my element, people. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be here.
We're going to split it up. It's going to be. We're going to go through each season. So obviously, we're not going to review every single episode individually.
No.
We might do that in the future, like when we find a good method for when we're going to pick like stories out of a hat or some shit. But it's more, like I say, like a big overview of that era, and it's something that there's a passion project for Tash. Tash has been wanting to platform this and do something with this for a while, so that is in the books as something we're going to work on. The next episode of the podcast immediately is going to be maybe a mix. The first half of it we'll do like once we've allowed ourselves to sleep on this for a bit and everything recover. We'll do like a like Shooty's era, like in kind of like in review and like just sort of do a little bit of that. But then I floated an idea to Tash that we're going to throw some open-ended opinion questions at each other and just see what each other blurt out. So if you want to get involved in that, if you've got any opinion-based questions that you want to throw at us, that we can just have a laugh about, basically, get hold of us on our socials, Twitter and Blue Sky, Adventures in Who. You can find us, just follow, just throw us a message over there, and we'll potentially use them in the episode when we get to recording it. So yeah, it's just basically an idea to just have a little bit more of a laugh, just have a wacky good time.
Wacky good time.
And yeah, from there, like I said, we've got a plethora of Doctor Who to go into and to tap into. We can talk about all kinds of different things. Obviously, we've been meaning for ages. We've not done it yet. Somehow, however many episodes we're in now, we've not done a review for any classic Who yet. So we'll absolutely try and figure out what story we would like to do first. I don't know. I'm tempted to say in the wake of this, like, do we do an Omega one? Do we do a Rani one? Do we just go completely, let's just fucking find one out of a hat, random?
It's tough. Like,
so we'll see.
It would make sense. I also just don't know how much people want to hear us say how shit the season was again.
Maybe just do something a little bit more removed and
give it a little bit of airing time.
That's the plan moving forward. I think we're both kind of in like in and out of, do we do this weekly or every other week? Just because it gives us a little bit more time to prep each episode if we do it every other week, especially if it
Yeah.
requires us to go do some research and rewatching and all of that kind of jam. So just keep an eye out on the socials, and I say, and you'll see it. Other than that, if you've stuck with us throughout the season with our reviews, I hope you've enjoyed it. Even though we've ended on this kind of dud note, I hope you've enjoyed the journey with us, and we've added some kind of worthwhile commentary to the whole thing. But thank you if you have, but much appreciated. Tell your friends, tell your other Doctor Who friends, leave a like, subscribe on the YouTube version, and comment, and leave a 5-star review on Spotify. All that good jam if you've enjoyed this, and we shall return with, like I say, hopefully a much more happy, silly episode of this podcast next time you see a next episode drop.
It's been tough coming on here knowing that you're gonna have a controversial take, you know what I mean?
I don't know
And
if
not
it's
even,
all
like,
that
a fun
controversial,
controversial
honestly.
take. Yeah,
Like,
but, yeah,
I,
it's just tough. We don't like, I don't wanna sit here and bitch about
yeah,
an episode,
yeah,
really.
I think that's really what it is, because like I feel
Yeah,
like in this case, I think we're kind of in the majority in terms of what I've seen.
yeah.
There have been people who've enjoyed it, but generally speaking, from what I've seen, we're kind of in the same boat as most people.
Mhm.
But like I say, it sucks
Yeah,
to feel like this is where we're at. Like, come on now. I want to be like singing the praises of this, and
yeah.
I just can't bring myself to do so at the moment.
Pretty wild, but, like, that's why we wanna when we talk about other topics, can be a
Yes.
little bit more goofy and
Yeah.
giddy about it,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe some tier
Look at us,
lists.
yes.
We can do some silly tier lists,
Yeah, yeah.
all
I was
that kind
actually
of
just
stuff.
thinking that in my head, so that's,
Farewell for now. Have a wonderful time until we see you next time. I don't know if you want to be in mind with us when we come back for our next episode. Maybe start rewatching the Jodie Whittaker episodes yourselves, so you're all in that
yeah,
mindset, and just start going into some classic Who, because maybe we'll turn to some suggestions and stuff if people want to give us suggestions about what episodes they might want us to take a look at. So if you're in the
yeah.
UK, it's all on the iPlayer. Go dip in. Go have a look see. Yeah. Until next time, everyone. Ta ta.
Oopsies.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye 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 bye
Bye.
bye.